Have you ever had to prove something to a room that already wrote you off? He walks off the field like a man who'd rather be anywhere than loudly celebrating, but the scoreboard says it all. 34 to 32, and Aaron Rodgers just tossed 4 touchdown passes in his Steelers debut at MetLife. That little line he dropped, "It was nice to remind those people that I still can," isn't chest thumping. It's the quiet kind of satisfaction that comes from answering questions with production instead of pronouncements. Picture the moment. The stadium still buzzing with leftover Jets energy, a few boos threading through the noise, and Rodgers pausing to flip a fan's phone to selfie mode. The small human thing he does before the big human thing he just did on the clock. He skipped the fancy dinner options, grabbed a water, and acted like a guy who's been through enough seasons to know how to control the temperature in a room. Then he goes out and dismantles a narrative. That's the real headline. He didn't gloat. He just reminded. This wasn't a pristine symphony. From snap one, he faced the kind of test that checks knees and resolve. Quinnen Williams got him on the first snap, a sack. But Rodgers responded as he always has. He got back up, found Pat Freiermuth on 3rd and long, then shook off a drop and hit DK Metcalf for a chunk play the next set. By halftime, the game already bore the fingerprints of a veteran who knows how to take a punch and turn it into momentum. 4 different touchdown targets, distribution across the roster, and a toughness that said, this team is not a billboard for nostalgia. It's a living room for fresh narratives. There's a softness to this kind of comeback that people miss when headlines get loud. Rodgers has a backstory now that complicates a lot of simple takes. 2 years ago, an Achilles tear snatched a season away after 4 plays. Last year was rough, fits, starts, and an exit that wasn't pretty. You can feel the stakes in his when he talks about wanting to finish his career on a different note. That hunger isn't the same as a hot take on Twitter. It's a quiet daily accountability that shows up in pregame routines, in late-night film study, and in the way he distributes the ball instead of hoarding it. And the game itself was the kind of messy epic that proves teams win on margins. The Steelers redistributed production, tight ends, a receiver, a running back, not just because Rodgers wanted to hoard glory, but because that's what a well-coached offense looks like when the quarterback trusts the whole room. Jonnu Smith and Ben Skowronek finished in the end zone. DK Metcalf had the highlight grabs. Kenny Gainwell forced a fumble on a kick return and then scored 2 plays later, swinging a wild 4-play stretch in the fourth quarter that felt cinematic. Jalen Ramsey sealed the win with a pass breakup that will loop on highlight reels too. It was a collective win with Rodgers as the architect, not the soloist. You could parse the numbers, 244 yards, 4 TDs, and call it a statement. But the play that mattered wasn't a stat. It was a tone. Rodgers walked off, cupping his ear at the crowd, a nod to the boos, but the real message was to people inside the organization who might have doubted him. He wasn't just proving critics wrong. He was reminding teammates and staff that he could be the kind of leader who steadies the room during the messy, grindy parts of a season. The defense had its own contradictions. They gave up 182 rushing yards and nearly 400 total yards, numbers that will make coaches up late tearing at tape. Yet they forced turnovers when it counted, and they held at the end. That's the ugly, beautiful truth of early season football. You win with grit in the quarter you need most. This team didn't look perfect. It looked like a team that still believes in the we more than the me, and leaders like Rodgers and Ramsey helped tilt belief into execution. There's also something to be said about distribution of credit. Rodgers hit 4 different teammates for touchdowns, an old-school quarterback trait in a modern league that worships spotlight numbers. It signals more than skill. It signals humility and an understanding that the best way to stay elite is to make others around you better. That ripple effect is how you turn a locker room from hopeful to dangerous. And then there's the human currency of redemption. Rodgers has had to reconcile a lot: the physical recovery, the public drama of the last few years, and the personal calculus of when to keep going. He didn't answer with bluster. He answered with gameplay. He thanked the people who told him to be patient. He acknowledged that some in the Jets organization might not have believed in him anymore, and that's okay. His line about beating everybody associated with the Jets wasn't petty. It was precise. It was the career equivalent of saying, "You'll let work speak where words fail." Now, what does this opener mean in the longer arc? One game doesn't make a season, but the psychological beat matters. For a team that hired him to raise a ceiling, that first day proof helps convert doubt to momentum. It's the kind of start that persuades a locker room to buy in a little harder, to show up less scared to make mistakes, because they trust the man throwing them the ball. There are still questions: the run defense, the late game consistency, whether Rodgers' body will hold up through 20 games, and those are important. Winners always address their holes. But the flip side is true too. Games like this seed belief, and belief is the precursor to consistency. The Steelers didn't just notch a W. They planted a flag in their own psyche that says, "We can do this together." If you want the tight headline to sling in a group chat, use this: Aaron Rodgers didn't rant. He returned. He flipped a crowd, steadied a team, and let his play do the talking. The loudest rebuttal to doubt isn't a viral rant. It's a quarterback putting the ball where it matters and trusting the people around him to make the rest work. So when week 4 rolls around and the season has filled with noise, remember this snapshot. A man who's been written off a few times, quietly walking past a camera, pausing to help a fan, then going out and throwing 4 touchdowns. That's not drama for drama's sake. That's proof that sometimes the best revenge is simply being excellent when people least expect it. Nice to remind those people that I still can. Aaron Rodgers didn't shout it from the rafters, but he made the point loud and clear after a comeback win at MetLife Stadium, a 34-32 thriller that flipped the script on his early season critics and his old team, the New York Jets. Rodgers looked calm and collected after the game, flipping a stadium staffer's phone to selfie mode, accepting a water bottle, and reflecting on a day where the chatter and booze only fueled him. He finished 244 yards and 4 touchdowns, spreading the ball around to 4 different teammates and engineering clutch drives when it mattered most. "I'm not sensitive about that. I expected that. I kind of liked that," he said of the catcalls and boos. But then he added the line that stuck. There were people inside that organization who didn't think he could play anymore, and he was glad to prove them wrong. The win was as much about Rodgers as it was about the new-look Steelers. General manager and coaches brought in difference makers this offseason, and players like Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, and Kenny Gainwell delivered key plays. Kenny Gainwell's forced fumble on a kick return and a quick Rodgers touchdown 2 plays later swung the momentum in Pittsburgh's favor late in the 4th. Jalen Ramsey, a midseason addition with serious pedigree, sealed the game with a game-saving pass breakup on Garrett Wilson. Still, the box score wasn't all sunshine. The Steelers allowed 182 rushing yards and nearly 400 total yards, a sign that the defense has work to do. Rodgers himself acknowledged sloppy bits he wants to clean up. Teammates echoed that sentiment, calling the victory a step forward, but not a finished product. The locker room's tone was practical and focused, a team celebrating a win while immediately turning attention to the next task. There's historical context here, too. Rodgers became the first Steelers quarterback to throw touchdown passes in a game since Ben Roethlisberger in January 2021. For a veteran chasing one last meaningful run, that's a reminder of how quickly narratives can shift. Rodgers framed the night as personal, but not petty. He spoke about not holding hard feelings over how his Jets' exit played out, but he didn't hide his satisfaction in beating those associated with the franchise. Win or lose, this game gave Rodgers the answer he wanted most. Yes, he still can. What stuck with you from the game? Rodgers' 4 TD day, Ramsey's game-saving play, or the Steelers' defensive issues? Drop your thoughts below.